Welcome back to Level Up, a podcast for you because you don't know what you don't know. And I'm John Cale, your host. Today we're going to be dealing with part 2 of a series around relationships and the playground of relationships. Last week we talked about the first part, and we took a look at the current status of relationships in the generation. We talked specifically about emotional and how important emotional and mentally strong your generation is. We talked about how you're looking for people to be in relationships with from a romantic perspective that are very intelligent, over looks. That seems very important. Looking that you're an open generation, open to direction. We also talked about some of the confusion last episode and the ghosting that takes place, where you pretty much decide that you're going to run away from things when they become uncomfortable or a circumstance becomes uncomfortable and you ghost, which is a big part of what's happening right now in the culture. And then the manipulation issues that are taking place where people are being manipulated in relationships, whether it be romantically or it be around work. People are being manipulated and taken advantage of. And then lastly, we talked about the loneliness and the trust issues that are out there. Although there are so many different platforms and so many different ways for you to be visible and for people to see you and for you to share who you are, people are very, very lonely. Statistics say that the number of people who are still lonely despite exposure everywhere is significantly high. And then that trust issue where people have had their trust betrayed and been hurt. So we talked about all of those current things, about the current status of the playground of relationships last week. And I want to remind you one thing. Last week I made a statement, and that statement was this, that you must master relationships. You have to learn how to master relationships. And you might say, well, why are you making such a big deal? Well, because as I mentioned last week, you actually need to master relationships because this is something that will not go away in your life. Unless by chance you decide that you're going to become a hermit and live in a corner and never leave your space and only communicate with the DoorDasher who's bringing you food if you decide you're not going back out into public and you're going to live as a hermit the rest of your life, you're going to have relationships and you're going to have to learn how to interact with people. And of all walks of life, from different places in life, from different positions than yours, you are going to have to learn how to have relationships. So that's the whole purpose of this particular podcast. I wanted to lay the groundwork and the landscape out there on the playground of relationships last podcast. And this time, I want to give you the pieces of how you can actually build them. So one of the things I would say to you today is the word of the day, which I have periodically, is risk. The word is risk. Can you think of a time in your life where there was risk involved, where you got to the precipice of a place, to the end of a place, and you were facing having to make a decision, and it was great risk. If you made the decision, it could bring you great reward, but on the other side of it, if you made the decision, it could also bring a lot of havoc into your life. When I say the word risk, what does that make you feel like? Do you feel like you want to run over into a corner and cover up and you don't want to talk to anybody? Do you have a feeling in your stomach that gets tight? Do you break out in sweat and get anxious? The reason that I say today the word is risk, because you're going to have to do something with this information that I'm going to share with you today. I'm going to share with you 5 pieces that if you will work on each of these individual pieces and put them into your life and make them part of who you are over the months and years to come, you will become a person who can master relationships through life. And it's important. I want you to think with me for just a moment. Do you remember back a time when you went to a Cedar Point, a Kings Island, a Six Flags, some big amusement park, and it was the first time for you to actually get on a ride, whatever the ride was, a big tall one, a fast one, a loud one, a wet one, whatever it was a big ride. Do you remember standing in line and waiting and the anticipation of getting closer and closer and closer to getting onto this ride? Do you remember what it felt like inside, the level of excitement in your stomach? Do you remember the uneasiness? Because as you stood there, you would see the ride go by and you would hear the people screaming, woo! And, they would go by and they would go around and it would happen multiple times while you were in line. But as that happened, the closer you got, the more you had this feeling of uneasiness, but yet you saw the excitement level. You saw the things that were taking place. And eventually, you got up to the line, you got up to the point where you got on the ride and you stepped out and you got on the ride and now you're in the ride, right? And that feeling of anticipation, right? There's that feeling of what I would call risk. The risk is I'm scared to death. This is really high. I've never done this before. It's fast. It's high. I'm not used to it. And the other part of it is that it's the excitement of when you watch those people go by very quickly in a blur, you saw the excitement and the sound of all the things that were happening for them. And now you get into the ride, right? And so you stepped from over here where you had the uneasiness and now you're committed, because once you're in that ride and you're buckled in and they come by and they click the locks and off you go. Remember the first time that happened to you and you went up the hill or it took you up to get ready to drop you, and that feeling of, oh my gosh, I am doing this. And even though you wanted to chicken out, there's no way you're jumping and undoing the belt and getting out and jumping. You're in. You're committed. Well, I want to talk to you today about that feeling that you had, because today, if you're going to implement some of these pieces, these 5 specific pieces to help you become a great person dealing with relationships, you're going to have to take a risk. You're going to have a feeling of uneasiness, and you're going to have to commit to move forward and be one with the fact that you got to move from this side of the line to the other side of the line. So I want to challenge you with that today. I not only want to challenge you with that from a romantic perspective with relationships, but also I want to challenge you with just your everyday relationships with your friends and family, in jobs, in your finances. People have dared you before to do things, right? I want you to realize that you're going to have to step out and take a little bit of a risk for this to be good. Remember, this podcast is something to add value for you, right? I've said from day one, I want to make this podcast a place where you can walk away and say, wow, I got help today in something that I didn't know. I learned something new and I'm able to apply something to my life. I want to add value to your life. And that's why I am doing these podcasts at the beginning. Taking risk means that I'm not quitting. Okay? If you're going to take a risk and you're going to step across the line to do something you're uncomfortable with, you're not quitting. You are going all in. You're giving it everything you've got. When you hit a hard time, you don't throw your hands up and say, oh, well, this isn't easy, I'm out, right? It wouldn't be called work. It would be called fun. Okay? It's not called fun. It's called work. It takes work for you to do something worthwhile. And you can't quit just because it gets difficult. And this is one of the challenges right now with the culture, is that if things are easy sailing for me, I'm in. But I hit a bump and I'm like, oh gosh, I don't think I want to deal with that. Well, you're smart. You guys have all of the resources available that any generation before you ever had. You have more available to you than anyone else. You can work through a problem. And guess what about you that's unique? Not only can you hit the wall where you have a problem, but you can go through it. And the reason you can go through it is because you're smart and you may actually create something different. I read a quote this week about the fact that your generation, risk doesn't mean that you don't do it. Risk means that you recreate how to do it. And that's a really cool thing, because that's how new stuff happens. Okay. So I want you to be open today to be willing to take some risk in your relationships with people, okay? You're going to need to change something. You're going to need to put something into action, and you're going to need to be able to monitor it, all right? So listen to that. You're going to have to change something in your life because of today's show. You're going to have to begin to put something into action, and you're going to have to monitor it so that you'll be encouraged to see, wow, this really works, all right? So let's do it. So the 5 pieces that are required for relationship foundation that will help you become a master at relationships. Now, let me just say this up front. I am not telling you if you do what I'm saying, you will become the master of relationships and you will be perfect and you will have your own show and make millions of dollars. That is not what I'm saying to you. I am not a psychologist, okay? I've not been trained as a psychologist. I have given money to a lot of counselors in my lifetime, talking to them and using their skills through things that I've had to go through. But what I am telling you is these are the basic pieces that if you will take them one by one and implement these in your life, like brushing your teeth every single day and taking a shower, it will become a new natural for you and it will become part of who you are. So let's talk about it. Number one, mutual respect, right? So the first thing that you need to lay out in a relationship is you need to have mutual respect. And what that means is valuing other people, right? Looking and valuing their opinions, the needs they have, and the boundaries that they have. This is a big challenge right now in our culture, guys. This is a huge challenge. The generations before you, it was kind of a standard, right? It was kind of a stand, a flag, a pillar, a point where you have mutual respect for people. People used to say, yes, sir, yes, ma'am, no, sir, right? Today, you barely get a name out of somebody, right? In the culture that we live in, people don't like it. And so the first thing that you're going to need to understand is you've got to have mutual respect. You need to value other people as much as you do yourself, right? There is a Bible verse with the golden rule that says, do unto others as you want them to do unto you. What would the world be like if we all lived by that? If when we met somebody or had a circumstance, we thought through before we acted about how they would feel about it, or how we would feel if that happened to us. Before we did something or said something to someone else, what would happen if we started to think about how we would feel if it happened to us? You've got to think about the other person's needs. Also, another thing underneath of valuing somebody is listening to them. In the culture we live in the United States of America, it is part of our culture that when somebody has something to say to you, you listen to them. You don't talk over them like the Jerry Springer shows of old, where everybody just rambles and jumps all over everyone else, and you can't understand anything. And you're talking over everybody, and it just is a lot of drama, right? Listening to somebody is a sign of mutual respect. I talked to this point with my son, Denton. He's going to love me because he's all over all of these podcasts. I talk to Denton all the time about listening to me. Right? And in order for you to listen in the culture that we live in that's so busy, that means I'm not talking about you hear noise in your ear, okay? There's a difference between hearing and listening. You can hear noise in your ear, but it's a whole different ballgame when you translate the noise from your ear to inside and you actually listen and process to what is being with a sound and what is being said on the outside, right? So listening is so huge that you pay attention. In order for that to happen, you have to be present. That means many times you got to put the phone down. You got to put the remote down. You got to turn music off. You got to give your attention to somebody and you got to look them in the eyes and they need to be felt heard. They need to feel like they were heard. Okay? It really means being unselfish. Mutual respect means being unselfish. Let me ask you a question. How are you doing on being unselfish? Being a selfless person, not being selfish, where when something happens in your life, the first thing you think about is, well, how's that affect me? Oh, I can't do that because of this. Well, I need this and I need that in my life. And the center pivotal point of your life is you. Now, some of you may be going, all right, dude, like, give me a break here. Okay. Well, I'm trying to be as honest and straightforward as I can be with you, because having been through life to the point where I'm at, what I'm sharing with you, I wouldn't share with you if I didn't believe it was truth and I hadn't lived it myself. So part of mutual respect is being selfless. Not being selfish all the time, thinking about the other person, right? Where do you want to go to dinner, right? Where do you want to go out to tonight? We're going to spend this money. How much should I spend all this or should I not? How about I buy you something? How about I go and buy you something instead of me something, right? From a romantic perspective, right? Thinking about that other person, right? What is it that will make them feel good? What are the things they like? What about the arguments that we get into and the language and comments that we can use in these arguments that we can have, where we can say things to people with expletives and things that are mean when we're angry that will really hurt them because we're feeling attacked, right? We get very defensive when somebody says something that we don't like. How are you doing on a scale from 1 to 10 with this one of having mutual respect? You know, I have an example, just real brief, about my wife and I. My wife is, from the outside, a tough cookie. She's worked with groups of 30, 40 salespeople at a time, and most of those are males. So she has grown up working with strong, outgoing male sales guys at a corporate level. So she's a tough cookie, right? But what most people don't understand about my wife is that on the inside, she is a marshmallow. And she's very sensitive. She's very caring. She's very compassionate. And things bother her. So the reason I tell you this is, one of the things that I have to do is there are a lot of shows that I can't watch when my wife is there. I have to give them up, and I can't watch them because it used to bug me. I'm like, what is your problem? Like, what? I'm watching the news. Why can't I watch the news? And I finally realized through communication with her that it physically takes over her body and her emotions to the point where she feels it inside. It hurts her. And I was like, wow. I had no idea that was why this was happening. And so there are shows, I don't watch the news. She doesn't like to watch the news. It affects her. Anything with a lot of drama, she feels it. It goes beyond like, oh, well, this is a movie and I'm scared. It like goes into her skin and makes her feel things she doesn't like. So I have to be unselfish and be willing to not watch certain movies and certain things with her, just as an example of the applicability of mutual respect. So that is the first piece that you need to lock into, that you need to have mutual respect and value the other person, right? You're not better than them. They don't owe you anything. You just need to realize we're on level playing ground and I got to respect you as a person. All right, let's talk about number two. Number two, emotional connection. Second piece to having and mastering through life relationships is having emotional connection with people, whether it's romantic or whether it's with everyday people that you interact with. You need to develop an emotional connection. And I don't mean a passionate, sexual, romantic connection. I mean just an emotional, real, relational connection, right? Where sharing of feelings happens and affection takes place and there's a sense of care. Now, what I will tell you is that depending on your upbringing, depending on the way that you were raised and your home circumstances growing up and your family dynamics, this could be tough. Because if you were raised in a home and in a situation where there wasn't a lot of affection, where people didn't hug you, where people didn't tell you they loved you a lot, right? You being open, and again, remember our word for the day? Risk. Right? This is not easy. You're vulnerable. Where you grew up where there wasn't a lot of affection and you weren't told that, you weren't asked your feelings and you weren't asked to share what your thoughts were. This is a whole new thing for you, right? So I understand that can be difficult. Let me say this as well. For guys, this can be really tough, right? Because guys, we're tough, right? We don't cry. At least this is what society says, right? We're tough. We're cool. We got it together. We're the guys in charge. Let us take the lead. We got this. Okay. Guys, it's really hard for us to really understand the emotional connection. Some easier than others. Okay. But for most guys, kind of settling down, quieting down and talking about their feelings and that kind of stuff. Guys don't do that, right? We talk about sports. We talk about golf. We talk about fishing. We talk about boating. We talk about cars, all of those different things. But I want to tell you that this is really important in relationships, not only with a lady that you're interacting with who you may have interest in, but in addition to that, it's very important for you in interacting with people at your work and in your careers. because you're still dealing with ladies when you're at work. And the only thing that's different is it's not romantic in most all cases. It's just a relationship. But you've got to learn how to deal with a young lady. They don't think like we do. They are very all about feelings. They are all about wanting to share how they feel and what they're sensing and all of these touchy-feely things, right? Girls are just wired that way. That is the way God made them. That's why guys and girls are different, right? Because we are wired genetically different. So guys, this is a hard one, but again, risk. You've got to be willing to be open and be at some point willing to share feelings and the fact that you care with people, especially if you're going to talk about a romantic relationship here, okay? So you need to listen to the girls. You need to hear them. Look them in the eye. Don't sit on your phone. Don't watch television. Don't do something else. Sit down and look your girlfriend in the eyeball and let her talk to you and watch what happens. Right? For many of us, it might blow her mind. She may literally be like, what's wrong? Because she's fighting for your attention and vying for your attention most of the time. So you need to listen to them. And as I would tell you, there is a slang that we used to say, and it says this, it goes, shut up. Okay. And yes, I think you can figure out what that means. We just need to shut up many times and listen. Okay. Guys, we need to be gentle with the females around us in our life. Right? We can joke with each other and push each other into walls and trip each other and, do all kinds of craziness. But many times the young ladies they're not digging that. Okay. We need to be gentle with them. We need to be nice to them. We need to say nice things to them. You don't want to say to your girlfriend, hey, that outfit makes you look a little heavy. Yeah, that's wrong. That is not something you want to say to your girlfriend. Okay, or something's wrong with her hair, or you want to say nice things. And if you can't say something nice, you're probably better off to just shut up and not say anything because you don't want to upset them or hurt their feelings, okay? You want to compliment them. Limit your sarcasm with the girls as well, right? To create the emotional connection, you can be sarcastic with all your buds, but girls sometimes don't like it, and they don't like it as much as your guys' friends do by far, okay? I remember when my daughter Whitney was growing up. Whitney's like 5'10", so she's a tall girl, right? And when she was young, she was tall. And I used to, when she was growing, and I would see people, and they'd be like, "How's Whitney? How's she doing?" I'm like, "Oh, she's great. She's huge. You ought to see her. She's so big. She's huge." And I said it one time, and she heard me talking to somebody, and she came up to me and she said, "Dad, if you ever use the word huge and my name in a sentence again, I'm going to kill you." And I got it, right? Because it didn't mean anything to me, right? I meant she's a big lady, right? She's beautiful, but to her being called huge, oh my gosh, end of the world. So we need to be careful, okay? And ladies, one of the things from an emotional connection with you and the guys is that you need to listen to him, right? You need to give him your attention. You need to look him in the eye, and he's got to know that he's been heard by you, right? Guys, we have this thing with respect, right? We have this like banner of respect that we carry, and we feel important and we feel emotionally connected with people who respect us. And so ladies, one of the things you can do is look him in the eyes and listen to him when he shares something with you. If he's going to share with you, number one, that's great. But when he does, look him in the eyes and listen to what he has to say. Pay attention to him. Tell him cool stuff. Tell him how cool his outfit looks. Tell him how oh my gosh, you look like you've been lifting. Guys want to hear that stuff. Okay. So emotional connection is huge. I want to say this on this point, and then we're going to move on. Have you ever been to a lake or a pond that was very quiet, maybe in the morning, and it was just a little pond, and the water was like perfectly still? There was absolutely no ripples. It was just perfectly still, almost like a mass of glass in front of you. No wind, everything was beautiful. Now, I imagine you've probably been, most of you, to an ocean, right? And or a bigger body of water. It's completely different. It's never that way, right? You never see the ocean like glass. I mean, even if it's smooth, there's still swells that are happening in the ocean. But most of the time, there are waves crashing on the shore. There's all kinds of sound. There's all kinds of noise. It's rough. It's loud. The reason I tell you both of those things is for this reason. You want your life, when we talk about emotional connection and relationship with someone, you want your life to portray the picture of the lake all the time. You want when people interact with you not to have a situation like the ocean with things crashing and noise and constant turmoil and sound. You want when people interact with you you want them to feel calm. You want them to feel comfortable. You want them to feel that it's great to have you there and enjoy being with you, right? That's the kind of connection that you want to have. Don't cause drama. This is a big thing in the culture right now. Drama. Oh, this is what he's doing. Did you hear? Did you hear what he did to her? Oh my gosh, right? Don't cause drama. We don't need drama, right? Don't argue over for the sake of just arguing, right? Don't do that. I know so many people who will just throw stuff out that makes no sense and it's a complete lie just so they can argue. Right? So they can be in a conversation. They feel left out. So I'm going to be in, I'm going to say something, even if it's not true, just so I can be there. You know people like this. I know you do. Be understanding, right? Because you want people to enjoy the experience with you and have a great emotional connection. All right. Number third thing for you to think about, communication. Lost art in our culture right now. Communication is number 3. How are you doing with being a communicator? How are you doing? And when I say communication, I don't mean that you have to get up and give a speech or talk to somebody and talk to people in a group, or you have to present something. That's not what I'm talking. I'm talking about what happens when you walk out of your place where you live and the way you interact and speak with people all day long till you come back to the place that you live at night. That's what I'm talking about. How are you doing? On a scale from 1 to 10, what would you give yourself? Take a second, think about it. You in the middle? Are you horrible? Are you really good at this? Are you an over communicator? Do you tell too much, right? This is something that is really missing today. And one of the things that's really important about communication is that you have eye contact with the person you're communicating with. Guys, listen, this is probably one of the biggest things that I struggle with today in life is when I try to talk to somebody and share information with them, and I don't have their eye contact in the culture that we live in. Now, I understand if you're in Gen Z and you're saying, well, that's just the way my culture is. Okay, that's great. But listen, you're not the entire country or the entire world. You have to interact with people who do see eye contact as a very important piece in communication. And what I will tell you is this is something that you really need to learn and master as well. Communication is enormous. Why? Because you're going to communicate unless, again, you become a hermit and withdraw from life. You're going to communicate with people the rest of your life. And the way that you communicate is going to determine the level of success you have in your life. And I want you to think about that. The way you communicate with people, how you do it and how you master it will determine the doorways and level of success that you're going to have in your life. If you don't communicate clearly with people, let me explain to you what's going to happen. On the left side, there is this road you're going to go on, and life will go on, and you'll go through life for years and decades and come down to the end of your life, and hopefully you'll have a good life. But if you learn to communicate clearly with people, and you go off on the right side of the path, you would take a different route because your communication is stronger and better and you're focused on it. You're going to get through the years of your life and come down to the end, and you're going to have a completely different picture and experience in life than you had on the other side. Why? Because on this side, you didn't communicate and you missed everything that you could have had on this side if you had communicated clearly and listened. This is big. I can't, other than standing up and jumping up and down and coming up with my face in the camera, I can't get your attention stronger than what I'm trying to say to you right now. Communication is huge, and eye contact with a human being when you're speaking to them is enormous. Not only is it important for you to set the example in your culture, but it will be very impressive to people who are millennials, who are Xers, who are boomers that you're going to be dealing with and talking with, okay? I remember when I went to Jordan on a trip they prepped us before we left, and they said, listen, here are all these cultural things that you don't do. Like when you go to Jordan and you go to visit people in their homes, don't say anything about their house. Don't say, oh, that's a cool statue, because they will go over and take it off the mantle and give it to you, and you have to take it, or it's an insult to them. Like they'll just give it to you. It happened. One of the guys in our group, they had these people had this big ceramic elephant, and he's an older guy, and he walked in and he forgot, and he's like, wow, that is such a cool elephant. And the people came over, took it off the mantle and gave it to him. And he had to figure out how to get this ceramic elephant home from Jordan. It was crazy. But one of the other things they told us was, don't look the women in the eyes, because most of the people in Jordan, it's a Muslim culture. And so most of the people there are in the Muslim faith, and in that culture, they've been raised. And so in the Muslim culture, they're covered, right? The ladies wear the robes and I can't remember the thing that they wear around their face, and I'm not going to butcher it by saying it, but I think you know what I'm talking about, where you can only see their eyes, right? A lot of them wear that particular outfit and garment. And so when we went, they said, don't look the women in the eyes. And it was really hard for us as Americans. When we went there, we would go downtown and we would sit in these little cities in Jordan, and here come all these women. And the women in Jordan were beautiful women. I mean, dark skin, dark hair, dark eyes, kind of, looked like they were tan all the time. They were beautiful women. And so here they would come, and as Americans, we normally look people in the face, right? So here they come, and we're looking at them, right? And we're like, we're not supposed to do that. And it was really hard for us to discipline ourselves. And many times we I think what they would call, they shunned us. They put their hand up in front of their face, like, don't look at me. And the reason was, from my understanding, and if this is wrong, I apologize, but I'm pretty sure this is right. What I was told was that it means much more than, hey, I'm just looking at you in the eye. It becomes more of a sensual, sexual kind of a thing if you look them in the eyes, right? So we had to modify what we do in our country of looking people in the eyes. Over there, it meant something completely different, right? So I just want you to know that in our country, this is huge. And this is something you need to learn to do, right? Learn to provide updates, guys, on communication. Learn to tell people about changes. Don't let people's time be wasted and money be wasted. If you are a communicator, you will be a person who gets things done. You let people know when you're dealing with them about something. Let them know what's going on. Don't walk away and just be like, oh, yeah, I forgot about that. No, communicate back. Let people know you're in a relationship about something. Communicate clearly as to what you're doing, okay? Because, again, it's not just something that you're going to transfer only in your culture. There are lots of other people that you're going to have to deal with, okay? I could talk a lot more on that, but we're going to move on to number 4, which is a big one, which is trust. This is the 4th piece that you have to have in mastering relationships. This deals with integrity. This deals with reliability. When I say the word trust, what do you feel? When I say trust, what are you feeling right now? Do you feel pain? Are you going through something where somebody's violated your trust, right? In order for you to have trust in somebody, you really have to kind of open up like the kimono and let people know who you are. And then we begin to build trust, right? Maybe you have let some people down and hurt people with trust, and maybe some people have hurt you. How is trust built is the question. Number 1, time. The more time that you spend with an individual, the more trust is going to go up. It's like a meter, right? The more time, the trust meter goes up. The more time, the trust meter goes up. Think about your closest relationships. Think about the people that are the closest to you. Think about the amount of time that you have spent with them. The second thing that helps build trust is consistency. It's not just a one-time interaction and, hey, you're my best bud in the whole world. It's consistency. It's time after time. You're consistent. You're telling me you're going to pick me up at 6:30. You do. You're telling me we're going to have dinner next Tuesday. We do. You're telling me you're going to take me out for my birthday. You do. Right? Consistency. You're predictable. You will do what you say you're going to do over a period of time, and it continues to take the trust meter up. Third piece there is honesty. Trust is built time, consistency, and honesty. So as these other two things are happening, you're proving that you're honest, right? There will be times that will come up where your friend in a relationship, whatever it may be, romantic or not, will be able to prove that you are honest, that you tell the truth, that there's a situation and you're going to be honest about it, right? Those three things, as they go, as time passes, raise the trust meter, and then you have a meter and a rating of trust for all these different influences and people in your life. You have to keep your word. Don't just talk smack, okay? Just don't talk smack. Just don't say stuff for the sake of saying stuff. I can't stand it when people just make stuff up. I always will ask people, if it sounds crazy, I will actually ask people, where did you get that? What's your source, right? There are tons of people, you know them, that just talk smack to get in on a conversation, okay? The one thing about it is that this deals with your reputation. Trust will deal with your reputation. And you say, well, what is a reputation? Here, this is as simple of a definition of reputation as I can say. Your reputation is the thought bubble of who you are when people see you coming, okay? It's the thought bubble that sticks out the side of their head of who you are when they see you coming. What are they feeling? What do they think about? Oh, here comes Joe. Here comes Sally. Here comes John. And they have a picture of who you are in this thought bubble, right? That's your rep, okay? So you want a good rep. And that happens through you being trustworthy and through you being honest. And if trust is broken, guys, it's like if you ever seen a broken mirror, like a mirror is you look in a mirror and you can see everything, it looks great. But man, if that mirror gets broken or cracked, right, it's distorted. Now the same image that you looked into that mirror and you saw yourself before, it was great. Now you're all like cut and distorted and it does not look who you are. That's what happens when trust gets broken, right? And you can't put that back together. To put that mirror, and eliminate those cracks and the distortions that are there, man, that's virtually impossible. Well, once trust is broke, it's really tough to rebuild it. I'm not saying it can't be rebuilt, but it can be very tough. Why? Because in order to get trust, remember, you had to be open and vulnerable and take risk. And it dealt with time and it dealt with consistency and it dealt with honesty. And there was a lot of stuff that went into that relationship that you had developed with trust. And somebody just decided one day to blow it up. It doesn't come back together just because. And sometimes they don't ever get back together. So guys, trust is the fourth piece. And then lastly today, the last piece is commitment. Commitment. That you are dedicated to this person, to this relationship, to this friendship. Being committed in the relationship with a person is not conditional in any case of relationship, romantic or otherwise. Relationships should not be conditional. It should not be about what can you do for me? What can I get from you? It should not be about what you look like, how you make me feel. It should not be about how much money you have. Relationships should not be conditional. They really should be unconditional. That means that you care about somebody, you love someone, either romantically or just as a human being, based on who they are, is care. And it's not based on, you make me feel good, you make me happy, you do this, that. No, it's unconditional. The other thing about commitment is that you have to have follow through. Okay? Keep your promises. Don't just tell people, yeah, no problem, I'll do that. And then walk away like you never said it and forget it and leave somebody hanging. This is missing in our culture today. These are the kind of things that if you will start doing them, it will take your game to the next level. It will take your game in life to the next level. You watch what happens with the people you interact with. You'll stand out like a thumb that got hit with a hammer and it's beating red because it hurts, right, on your hand. You will stand out in a big way if you will take some of these things and put them into place. Never just give an answer. Follow through and do what you say. Show up and do the hard stuff. No excuses. Do the hard stuff, right? Don't be a person. Do not be a person who looks at a situation and starts to get into something with somebody at work, for example, and then it gets hard and you just bail. Or you become a friend with somebody who's having a rough time and you just bail out and you ghost them. Do not do that. Don't give up when it gets hard. See the challenge and the difficulty as a journey. See it as a challenge that find a way to get through it. Find a way to work through it with someone. Don't just throw your hands up and quit, right? And don't go negative. I see this so much. Something comes up and immediately the first thing is people will give you 5 reasons why we're not doing this. They don't talk about, oh, wow, it would be cool if we did this. And, oh, maybe we could try that and this and the other thing. No, they're going to tell you right up front, oh, well, we can't do that because A and because of B and C and D. And within a minute, they've talked themselves out of the situation or the relationship or the step they need to take because they've looked at all the negative and they've been demotivated and talked themselves right out of it. Listen, you're going to miss something big if you do that. And if you hang around with people who are always finding the negative things, that they find why you can't do something, you better really rethink those relationships. Because those people will hold you captive and keep you from, you will miss your road if you let that influence affect you. And you don't want to miss what your road has for you, okay? Let me give you an example of this, right? So I founded a company with 2 other guys, had an idea, went and talked with one of my buddies who I trusted. I've shared some of the detail with this, but I'm not going to spend a lot of time, but I just want to help you understand by applying this. Went to him, talked to him. We felt there was something to it, interviewed or interacted and brought in another guy, his buddy, and there were now 3 of us. And although over the years from the time we started, what the original idea wasn't what we actually ended up doing because it transitioned and there were all kinds of people that were involved and things that were involved and time passed and technology changed. But the door had to open. The door had to start. Somebody had to take it and go, hey, I have this idea, have this thought, and then take it to somebody. And then that had to go here. And then we all had to work. So first of all, we founded the company, right? We had the idea. And that went to, well, okay, this looked kind of real. We'll have a name. So we had to come up with a name. And then that turned into, well, what's the concept? And that turned into, we need to file patents. And so we filed patents. And that turned into, well, how do we start a company? We don't have any money. Well, we need investors. So investors were sought out. And so investors were brought in to give money so we could start a company, so we could start building software. Well, we started building the software and then we needed to sell. So now we have to go sell it into a marketplace in banking where none of us were from. And following that, we had to promote the product. We had to go out into shows and we had to talk with these high-level executives who were going, what are you talking about? Because when we started the company, we were dealing with analytics and predictive type stuff, like not quite as intense as AI today, but it was headed there back in 2010. And people were going, what are you talking about? They weren't even aware we could do these things. And years passed of selling and promoting and marketing and programming and developing the product and hiring people and firing people and people leaving the company and new people coming and positions changing, right? And ultimately, we sold the company to a multi-billion-dollar company who said, wow, we love your software. We want to put this software into our business and our banking vertical, and we want to be able to put your software out there to all of our current customers and get new customers to come. And they bought our company. Now, I tell you all of that to say, what would have happened when I had the idea if I would have said, well, that's kind of cool, but nope, I don't think I want to, what am I going to do with that? I'm just a sales guy sitting in my office at home working on my bank statement. What would have happened if I wouldn't have said, well, what if? What would have happened if I wouldn't have dreamed a little bit about what could happen? What would have happened if I wouldn't have taken the chance and go talk to my buddy and say, hey, what do you think about this? What would have happened if we realized, oh my gosh, they're going to be a stack of patents this big that the patent attorney is going to give us to go through and read? What if we just said, well, that's hard. We can't do that, right? All the steps that took place to sell it, we would have missed the most amazing opportunity that we all had in our life so far from a business perspective to ring the bell and sell our company and exit. So I hope that helps you to understand. If you can put these things into place, folks, in your relationships with professionals, with coworkers, in your romantic life, respect, emotional connection, communication that's clear with eye contact, trusting people, and being committed and not providing not providing excuses, but doing something. I think that if you will take these things, it will change your life. Now, here's what I want to challenge you with as we're ending. I want you to pick one of those 5, and I want you to determine in your life to start doing that consistently every day. Somehow, some way, do it every day until it becomes part of who you are. This is the way you do communication now. This is the way I do emotional connection. This is the way I do trust, right? Like, put one in your life and do it until you feel like, wow, this is becoming part of me, and then go pick another one. And I promise you, in the months and years to come, if you will implement these 5 pieces, you will be a different human being, and you will take the road that will lead you to the biggest success that you could ever have. I really appreciate your time today in the podcast, and I hope that this will help you, but you're going to have to do something about it. So thank you for being here today. Thank you for your attention. And I hope that you'll go and put these things into place in your life. Next time, I want to tell you about a friend of mine who's going to join us for a 2-part podcast. He actually has been to Washington, D.C. I've been friends with him for 25 years. And the title of our podcast is going to be From Slinging Blow to a New Go. Yes, you heard it right. From slinging blow to a new go. So he was a big pen of drugs and those kinds of things in this region for many years, but had an amazing thing happen in his life. And we're going to talk about his upbringing, his life as that person in the slinging blow world. And then we're going to move into what's happened and where he's at today. We're also going to be talking about in the future a couple series about God and me and how's that work really. Right? So God and me, how's that work really? And that's going to be about a very real look at some spiritual things that are very simple to understand, no big words, no deep stuff that you don't understand. But I think you'll come away from that with a completely different understanding of religion and God. And then coming as well this summer, we're going to be talking about entrepreneurship. You can have your own gig. And I'm going to be bringing my partner in, and he's going to be talking about his road as an entrepreneur, our road in finding the company or founding the company, and technology, specifically some of the things that are hot in that right now for some of you who may be interested from a job perspective. So until we see or talk to each other again, remember there's one you, you're unique, and I'm John, and I'm out.